Hello, welcome to the American Business Podcast. This is Kevin Deveji, your host. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today we'll talk about manufacturers, and today's number is 13 million. This is how many people employed by more than 239,000 manufacturers in the US. Speaking of manufacturing, we have a great guest today, Chuck Weiss with us, and we'll talk about manufacturing in the US, and we'll talk about ERP industry and other popular subjects. Let's welcome Chuck to our virtual stage. Hello, Chuck.
Hi,
Welcome to
Kevin.
the
Good
podcast.
morning.
Yes, good to
Hi,
see
good
you.
morning, Kevin. Good to
Good
see you
morning.
too.
Yes, rather good afternoon, rather. Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes. How is your week going so far?
It's been a good week. I think we live here in the Northeast, so I could use a little reprieve in the weather, but I think we're not going to have our traditional sunny, happy Memorial Day weekend this weekend.
Yes. That's how it looks like it. That's true. Hopefully next week
How
will
about
be
you,
better.
Kevin?
Yes, my week is going good so far. No complaints. So I was at a conference earlier this week. Well, I was in Florida, so weather was much nicer. So, after the sunny weather, the New York is a little colder, but that's okay. But I'm excited for the weekend. That's gonna be Memorial Day weekend, so it'll be fun. Do you have any plans for weekend?
No, I think we're just going to hang out and work on projects around the house.
Sounds good. So they are going to keep you busy.
They will definitely keep me busy. Yes.
That sounds good. Well, today we'll talk about different subjects, you and I, about manufacturing, about ERPs, about technology in general. So I'm really excited. And again, thank you so much for being with us today. For
Oh, my
our
pleasure.
audience,
I'm thrilled to be here.
pleasure is all mine. Thank you. So for our audience and for our listeners to know more about you, would you please introduce yourself and your company?
Sure. My name is Chuck Wise. I am the founder and president of Copia Solutions. We are founded here in Massachusetts, in Foxborough, and we predominantly sell and implement Acumatica ERP. We do have a legacy base of old Macola customers, but right now our flagship product is Acumatica. We've been doing this since 2014. I actually built the business 10 years prior to that and bought the business 10 years ago and moved it from Connecticut to Massachusetts.
Yes, so I know you for years, and we also had the pleasure of doing business together. And I know how hard you work. Your team really work hard as well. Also, you have your expertise in manufacturing processes, and as well as ERP is very important for the industry. Also for this podcast, I'm confident that you're going to share many informative content with our audience today. Well, yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say before, I actually started out as a manufacturing professional. So from school up until my, I think, mid 30s, I worked my way through manufacturing organizations. So I held positions in supply chain, materials management, production, master scheduling, inventory control, quality, and even cost accounting. So I I built myself a very well-rounded knowledge of manufacturing practices. And then in 1999, my then VAR asked me to join their organization as a software implementer, implementing Macola software strictly for manufacturers back in 1999. And I would say, as you can see, a lot's changed since 1999. I've got a little bit grayer, a little bit wiser, but I'm still implementing manufacturing solutions and loving it every day.
So, in terms of your career, how did you start it? You just mentioned a little bit, but just to follow up, how did you get started from the beginning? You will say.
Yeah, so I would love to say, and I say this about a lot of things in my life, I would like to take credit and say this was a part of my master plan, right? But it was not part of my master plan. I did not think that I was going to be a software implementer, right? Excuse me. It picked me. So I think I was just the right age at the right time and working in a manufacturing organization. Um, and we didn't have the tools we needed. Go back to that time period. We were running BPIC software on an AS400, on a mainframe, right? And and client server technology, Novell servers were just emerging, and it was controversial, right? Like, how could you run a business without a mainframe? So I started developing spreadsheets when spreadsheets came out, and that sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, wow, like, this guy's been able to graph our history and our production and our capacity and where we have holes and where there's overlaps, and did it all through Excel spreadsheets, right? So um, that's I'd say the industry picked me, Kevin. I don't think I really picked the industry. I think I was just in the right place at the right time, and I was willing to use whatever tools were available to me to get the job done and get the job done well.
Yeah, that's really exciting, um, and you work with many different manufacturers, I know, and as well as other businesses. And when you look at your career in general, what are the exciting and challenging parts that you see on daily basis?
Yeah, so I loved manufacturing, but what I discovered about myself when I was in the manufacturing world is that I'm a problem solver guy, right? I like to solve problems. Give me, a boatload of insurmountable problems, and I am at my best, right? But when those problems are solved, I have a desire to go solve other problems. So when I got into the software industry, it was a perfect fit. It was utilizing my manufacturing experience with my aptitude for technology, and it gave me a never ending supply of problems to solve. So, why is that important? Because that's the really exciting part about my job, right? My job, implementing the software, is actually pretty easy, right? I mean, when you've implemented a software package for a long time, you know how to push the buttons, you know how to convert data, you know how to set the settings, right? I mean, these things are, pretty structured, right? The really exciting part is understanding a company and really identifying what's holding them back, like what's preventing them from moving to the next level, and then helping them, not just by implementing software. The software is a tool. The software in itself doesn't solve problems. Software gives your community of users the tools to do a better job, but all the building blocks need to be there to run the business. So let me give you an example. I implemented a customer 2 years ago, and I discovered early on in our conversations with them that they did not have a good grasp on their cost model, right? They were using cost models that were developed by, you know, two generations of family members, right? So these cost models were very old. And I pushed them to implement cost models in the implementation of Acumatica. And they kind of resisted a little bit, but they eventually sort of gave in and allowed me to bring cost models into phase one of the Acumatica implementation. Well, just 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation. The owner of the business called me to talk about various things. But in that conversation, he said, Chuck, we discovered by having actual manufacturing cost data that we had several product lines that we were literally wrapping $10 bills around every time we shipped one out the door. And Acumatica, and more importantly, the implementation, brought the tools to us to allow us to see this. And of course, they made all the necessary changes, whether that is to not market those products as heavily or to increase prices where necessary. And they are in a better financial position now than they've been in years. That is the really exciting part of my job, is that when a customer of 2 years has accolades to say that you, Copious, has been a part of our success, that's what really drives us.
Yes, that's really exciting. And let's talk about manufacturers a little bit, because you have the manufacturing background and you work with manufacturers very, very closely. Also, as you know, I'm also very close to manufacturing industry. I'm part of different industrial groups. And as I mentioned in the beginning of our podcast today, there are 13 million people employed in US in manufacturing industry by more than 239,000 manufacturers in US. So that's a backbone of US economy. And there is a big push for made in US. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, the US, actually SBA administration, they are having a roadshow going around US, and they came to New York metro area, and they talk about the Made in USA initiative. So producing in US is very important, and manufacturing is getting more and more important for US and US economy. Having said that, and you are working very close with manufacturers, how do you see the state of US manufacturing at the moment? And what are their major pain points and challenges that you are observing in your interaction with them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a great question, and it's an interesting time for sure, right? Um, we're coming off of an election year, right? So election years are always disruptive. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on; they're disruptive, and people hold off on spending. They hold off on investments and assets, usually until the election's over. And now, of course, we find ourselves with the tariff crisis, right? So, manufacturers either directly or indirectly are being impacted. And, we've had some movement, some positive movement. So I think there's a bit of a sigh of relief out there. But, we went through a period where manufacturers were really scrambling, like, what are we going to do, right? We were called to jump into action to enhance software that we currently, Acumatica software, to help companies to understand their tariffs, manage their tariffs, and understand how it affects the pricing model without necessarily overinflating the actual cost of materials, labor, and overhead that they consume. So yeah, so it's an interesting time. I mean, I do feel like we're getting relief there. But I think when we talk about manufacturers, I think my expertise in particular, I think I need to qualify that, right? So our sweet spot is kind of small manufacturing, like mom and pop, sort of $5 million a year manufacturers up through 65, $70 million a year manufacturers, right? Certainly we have manufacturers that are 100 million, 150 million, 200 million, but the bulk of the services that we provide are to the small and medium manufacturing world. So my purview of that is really targeted towards that sector of the manufacturing world, right? So having said that, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a lot of privately held companies. So we're dealing with companies that are run by a son or a daughter or several sons and daughters that are inheriting the company from mom or mom and dad, that inherited it from their mom and dad, from the grandparents, and so on and so forth, right? Those companies all suffer from very similar types of things, right? They don't fully understand, I think, sometimes that they're in a global market. Whether they perceive themselves that way or not, they are, right? And when you're in a global market, you need better controls. You need to be able to produce high quality products with quick turnaround times without breaking the bank. I mean, we all know manufacturing, right? It would be great. Manufacturers could build anything if you let them have a never ending sea of inventory, right? So if we just keep buying inventory and put it on the shelf, we can pretty much build anything. But that's not reality. Cash is always king in every company, right? So it's finding that balance and being able to control the supply chain, have reduced lead times or at least competitive lead times, competitive prices, and understanding your market. And companies today do a great job in this sector, but they do it usually through a hodgepodge of software applications where CRM isn't connected to ERP, and they have a different fixed assets program, and their CRM program. And then you layer all of that with more spreadsheets than anybody could ever count, right? The other major problem that we have, especially when capacity becomes a problem, is a lot of mid-market ERP applications are lacking in really strong, multifaceted scheduling tools. So that is an area where I think a lot of manufacturers at almost every level suffer with really good capacity scheduling, because let's say some things like costs are variable, but costs tend to move up and down, right? In more of a slope than a spike, right? Sometimes we have spikes like with steel prices and things like that, but most of the time costs generally move in a bit of a wave, right? But capacity, and again, any of us that have been in the manufacturing world know that there are 1,000 things that can go wrong every single day. And every one of those
True.
things has a downstream impact on capacity. It doesn't go away. You can't create capacity. You can pay overtime and increase your cost model, but lost hours are lost hours, never to be regained, right? So you need the tools to be able to constantly reshuffle the deck almost live on an hourly or daily basis to stay ahead of what's going on. So those are just some of the things that I think we find with manufacturers today, Kevin.
Yeah, these are great insights. Thank you very much for sharing. So, I like to shift our conversation towards ERP marketplace. So you mentioned about Acumatica, and there are other ERP systems as well in the marketplace. So when we think about, there are many others. There are SAPs, Oracle's, Sage, Microsoft, and many others in the marketplace. That there are also niche ones that that we haven't mentioned here. So at the end of today, ERP is a enterprise business software category. So how do you see the ERP marketplace landscape nowadays in general, the state of ERP market, let's just say? And in terms of manufacturers and other businesses, what type of steps they should take to make the right decision to pick the right ERP system in general?
Mm.
Because it's a serious decision. Once you deploy an ERP system, it touches pretty much every part of the company. It requires training, it requires support, and the business processes will run on these main business platform, the ERP system. So it's a serious decision for organizations. Having said that, based on your experience, how should companies take steps to make the right decision for the right ERP software system and the state of ERP marketplace? Well, it's a fully loaded question, so take your time.
It is a fully loaded question, but it's a great question. It's difficult, Kevin. Our industry, our ERP industry, is a very difficult industry. We're lacking. We are lacking in tools to connect companies, in this case, manufacturers, right, with really good manufacturing partners, right? There is not a good tool out there to really do that. Okay. What happens is a company comes to the realization that their hodgepodge system is not working and it's limiting their growth. It's either causing problems where their customer service levels are getting dinged because of poor quality, bad lead times, poor customer service. So they know they need to do something to grow, but they're afraid. They're afraid because they hear horror stories. And those horror stories are real. I would love to say they're not real. The second problem in our industry is that when you reach out to any of these sort of sites there's tons of sites out there that will say, we need to, we'll help you find the best software, we'll give you the information. And then the floodgates open. Your name goes to 18 people and your phone starts ringing off the wall, right? So the advice that I share with people is there are really good VARs out there. There are great VARs with deep industry knowledge, with great reputations, but it's very hard. It's hard for the prospective customer to find those people. It's also hard for the VAR to get that message out over a very large audience, right? So what's a person supposed to do? There are red flags, right? So when you're talking, let's say you've narrowed down 3 ERP systems you want to talk to, right? Because you've read good reviews online, you think they might be a fit for your business. Red flags. If you're not getting, if the VAR that you're talking to is not uber responsive to your requests, whether those requests are verbal or email, run, because it doesn't get better from there. That's their company putting their best foot forward. And if their best foot forward is not responsive to your needs, it does not get better in an implementation, right? That's a huge red flag. Then you go through the evaluation process. I think the evaluation process goes generally pretty well. You have well-qualified people in the room and people that know the business usually, and they're able to ascertain whether this product will or will not, meet their needs. The question is this the right company? Is it the right VAR? Am I going to get everything that I need from this person, right? So then you get to references, right? Well, if you ask me, references are a waste of time because everybody's going to give you their 3 best references. Nobody's going to give you a bad reference, right? How do those reference calls go? They always go the same way. And every VAR in the room tells you they're the best, 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 best. Their software is the best. They're the best. Everything's the best. And it's tough. I mean, it's really tough. So I say to prospective customers, ask different questions. Ask the VAR, well, where are you in the stack of VARs? Are you top 5? Are you top 10? Have you won any awards? What awards have you won, right? So this year, Copious won the Acumatica Customer Success Award for 2025. That's huge.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. That's based on how our customers rated our service, right? So we're number 1. That's incredible. I told my entire team, we were honored just to find out we were one of the 3 nominated VARs. To have won was beyond anything. So if you're dealing with a VAR who's really, truly delivering those high quality services and touch points and is making customers that they're going to have for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, there are things to prove they're doing it. There's awards, there's accolades, there's standings. So dig a little bit deeper. Don't just go for references because you're going to get 3 good references. Ask the VAR pointed questions about how long have you been a VAR? How long have you had this product? How many people do you have certified? How do you keep up with certifications? How do you handle support? How do we get in touch with you? What's an expected response time? What if there's an emergency? These are questions that I'm almost never asked in a sales cycle, Kevin. And these are the things that customers should be asking. Because honestly, today with the internet and AI coming into our lives, you can do so much research on your own, right? My role has shifted dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And as a follow-up, can you tell us a bit about Acumatica in general? I was actually had a meeting yesterday with one of our channel partners, and we talk about ERP market in general. So when we look at the ERP systems, they all have, I call it character, right? They have different characteristics, and some fits for some organization, other fits for another organization for different reasons, because of the industry specific design of the system, because maybe of the war, maybe because of the support, maybe customization, or some other reasons. Not each ERP is great for every single company, so they need to make that choice. In terms of Acumatica, which I'm familiar, but for our audience to just be informed, can you tell us about Acumatica a little bit? What makes it different, and how businesses that you are working with benefit from the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, I moved into the software industry in 1999, right? So, over those years, I have sold countless ERP software applications, right? Too many to name here today, but all the normal people that you'd expect to see in the small to medium enterprise market space, right? I have to say, with all sincerity, that Acumatica has been the absolute best application I've ever had the opportunity to work with. We have been able to solve every single customer that has implemented Acumatica. We've been able to solve their business problems, whether it was directly out of the box or being able to easily configure the software or extend the software to handle very unique and specific needs. Um, we have not hit a single road yet, a block that we were not able to overcome using all the tools built into Acumatica. So I can't say enough about the software application. And I know some customers were moving to a SaaS environment for the first time. And, there's all the normal things that people feel that have never been on a SaaS product, right? Is my data safe? How will I get my data if I want my data, right?
Yes.
What about customizations? Can I do customizations? And, Acumatica, the speed, is it going to be fast enough, right? And Acumatica was built for the cloud. It was not an ERP application that was fat client server that's trying to be retrofitted to the cloud. It was built initially for the cloud. And all of those problems are solved. The customer's data is safe. The customer can have their data whenever they want. It's easy to customize and extend. There's no reason for a customer not to do one, if not both, of the major Acumatica upgrades a year, because it is such a non-event. There's no hidden costs. We've got to redo everything we just did. Acumatica gives you a free 90-day sandbox. You do your testing. We flip the switch on a Friday night. You're back to work Saturday morning like nothing ever happened, right? So they've really just nailed all of those components. And the speed is there, the mobile app is there, and then they layered on top of that a unique licensing model. So their licensing model is unlimited users. And we'll need a whole separate podcast to talk about my feelings on what unlimited users does for an organization. It puts your
It can be the part two.
Yeah, exactly. It'll have to be. We can talk about this for an hour, but it takes a company that has a few customer service people and maybe 10 people using the ERP application to the entire company using the ERP application, because there's no additional cost with Acumatica. Takes your company and puts your company on steroids. So Acumatica, I think, is positioned to be probably, it is one of the fastest growing ERP applications out there today. And I think they're going to be epic in their position in the marketplace.
I like to shift our conversation towards AI a little bit. So we are technologists. We use AI in our businesses in some form, and other businesses, small, mid-size, and enterprise, they also adopt AI or AI-powered software systems in some form. And I was actually earlier this week. I was at SAP conference Sapphire, so I learned a lot about what they're up to, their AI upgrades, and so on. So in general, when we look at AI is here to stay, and it's going to be more and more utilized by businesses. One of the good thing about this is it's more affordable than before, right? So some now it's even small and mid-sized companies can afford it, can implement it. I like to learn about your viewpoint. What do you think about AI? How it will continue impacting businesses moving forward? And also, the million-dollar question is: will AI replace jobs? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, you're right. AI is here to stay, right? Um, I think it's going to be an immensely powerful tool. Um, Acumatic is already using AI in the core product, right? We're doing anomaly detection, which is fantastic. It's capable of analyzing your transactions and flagging transactions that are falling outside of your normal pattern or normal trend, right? And alerting the appropriate people to, maybe you want to look at this, right? That's just its sort of entry point into the ERP market space. I think AI is going to be hugely beneficial to ERP users, because generally you're working in a closed database, right? So you're working in your database, right? So it's analyzing your data and giving you insightful triggers and things to bring to your attention as users. So I feel like the inception of AI in ERP marketplace products is going to be hugely beneficial. In the general sense, outside of the ERP marketplace, there are a lot of downsides to AI, right? And I think that we, as a community, we have to try to grow quickly because the technology has arrived before the cadence, right? So, now AI can, with just a short voicemail from me to you, Kevin, AI can copy my voice and you can have me say anything you want me to say, right? So with the introduction of AI, you can't now necessarily believe what you hear. You can't necessarily believe what you see. So how are we going to start authenticating what we see and hear, right? And that's what I mean by, I think, the cadence of and the authority and the guidance around being able to tell the difference is dangerous in the civilian world. But I don't feel that that's dangerous in the ERP world because, as I said, what AI you're using within your own data set, right? You're not sharing your data to the outside world. You're not necessarily bringing data in. So I think it's really safe. I think that in the very short future, hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, we have the introduction of Apple Vision Pro and other non-Apple related products, which are bringing in that virtual spatial computing software, right? So my hope, being the manufacturing and the kind of the software geek that I am, I'm hoping to see a day where spatial computing and AI come together, and going to work in a manufacturer now starts to look more like an episode of CSI, where you can just throw documents up in the virtual air and AI can compare documents and time frames and buying trends and price trends, and you're doing all of this virtually in front of you instead of sitting in front of a computer, right? So just the other day, I was in Boston in Copley, and I saw a man walking through Copley with an Apple Vision Pro on his head, right? And I thought,
Wow.
oh wow,
Yeah.
that's the
Coming up.
beginning
Yeah.
of something, right? So yeah, so that's kind of my take on AI.
Mhm.
I don't think it's overly dangerous in the ERP market space. I think it's going to
Mhm.
be hugely helpful, and I, for one, do not believe that it's going to replace jobs. I think in most manufacturing facilities, you have people that are very knowledgeable, that know the business, that have been around for a very long time, and they're probably doing mundane tasks that are not they're needed, they're necessary today, but we could use them in a much better way, right? So I think we're going to be able to repurpose people and their knowledge and their experience to make us better, faster than we are today. So, maybe I'm being really optimistic, but I don't believe that AI is going to replace people in jobs. I think we're going to be able to repurpose them.
Yeah, that's an exciting subject, and definitely we can have separate podcast sessions and discuss these.
Sure.
And that this is number one. I mean, we can also see these in our YouTube channel. We see what subjects are really popular, what our viewers are watching and listening, and AI is definitely number one. That's for sure. Followed by some other business subjects, but it is because it's evolving and new things are happening pretty much daily basis, and we keep learning. Even for us as technologists and enterprise business professionals, we keep learning different things constantly because that's the change that we are in terms of technology. Even in our standards, AI is pretty quick in terms of the change that it has in it, and helps us learn more and stay up to date. I'd like to talk more about your professional career, if I may. You have decades
Sure.
of professional experience, and I'm glad that you are sharing your insights about enterprise software industry as well as AI. What about yourself? Do you have any role models? Have you had any role models that you can share with our audience during your career journey?
Oh, for sure. Um, I can talk about role models in general, right? I don't want to start naming role models because I've had a lengthy career, and I'll forget somebody and then I'll feel bad, right? Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I've had role models all along, and I think role models come in different forms. They can be leaders, they can be managers, C suite, they can be colleagues, they can be just industry colleagues, they can be professional colleagues, right? I mean, I think they come in different forms. What I've noticed about mentors and role models is that they're very easy to come by in your early part of your career when you're starting out and you're working in an organization and you report to somebody, and it's easier to find role models, right? I think when you mature, and if you're an entrepreneur and you open your own business, um, now role models are not there as much, right? Now you have to make a concerted effort to really find those role models. So for me, role models today are generally other industry experts that I think have like done a great job at maybe marketing, or they do an excellent job at customer service, customer care. And these are people that I like to connect with, and they become my role models, right? Because it's just good to sound ideas and hear how other people approach problems, right? I'm all about the team, right? Yeah, I have good ideas too, right? But I'm not the only person on the team with good ideas. And extending your team outside of your organization is a great way to find role models and people that you admire, and it's being honest with yourself, right? It's as a business leader, it's being able to say, okay, we're doing this well, we're doing this well, we're doing this well. This, guys, maybe we could be doing a little bit better. And then finding people who do that part of business very well. And don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say, hey, we're struggling a little bit in this area, and I would like to get better. Can you share with me how you got to the level where you're at today? So I think that's my take on role models for sure.
Yes, appreciate it. How about some lessons learned during your career, um, that you gain decades of experience, and during this career journey, can you share about some lessons learned with us that you always keep it in mind, that you learned during your career journey, that you can share with our audience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's been so many lessons along the way, right? I mean, the what I learned in my 20s, what I learned in my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, and we're clock still ticking. Yeah, it changes, right? So I'm a type A person, right? Very aggressive, type A, very driven. And I think in the younger parts of my career, I hadn't developed volume control, right? Like every challenge was like a challenge I wanted to win, right? And I wasn't able to, as a young pup, I don't think I was really able to pick the hills I wanted to die on, right? So I had mentors along the way that helped me see that you don't have to win every battle in business, right? Pick those battles. And the second big thing that I personally had to learn over my career that now I'm proud to say I'm very good at is when it's appropriate, listen, right? Develop your listening skills, right? And to have listening skills, you need to have confidence, right? Because if you don't have confidence, you keep trying to interject into conversations, because I think you're trying to prove something, right? But when you are able to develop the confidence in yourself and the confidence in your abilities, then that opens up a world of listening where you can sit quietly and listen and ask questions and take in the response. And in my job, in my career of helping to transform businesses using technology, listening is the very first and most important skill that I'll use. But I was not born with that skill. I was not born with the knowledge of knowing which hills to die on, which having volume control. And so it's time, experience, and mentorship that has taught me all of those skills.
Yes, how important, how critical. um, Chuck, what are the biggest passions and interests that you have outside of work?
Oh, well, you can see a little piece of it on the wall behind me. I have hats. So family is number one, of course. I'm a big family guy. Love to
Mhm.
spend time with family and friends, and experience life together, right? No matter what you do in the world, whatever you're trying to achieve for yourself, and achievement is not monetary. Achievement can be many, many things, but whatever your achievement is, if you can't share it with people in your life, what is the point, right? You want to be able to share everything with the people in your life. So family's number one, but my family will tell you that I have an accessories problem. So it's hats, it's sunglasses, it's shoes, it's wallets, it's watches, it's cars. I collect classic cars. That's a big passion of mine. And as of late, over the last year, I'm working on my private pilot's license. So I'm on my way to being a pilot. So that's
Exciting.
a huge passion of mine later in life, right? I mean, when I tell people, they're like, why? Why? Why do you want to fly a plane? And I'm like,
Why
well, I
not?
love cars, I love motorcycles. I basically love anything with an engine, right? And so I plane was like the next frontier. Now, granted, I'm not William Shatner. I'm not going to Mars with Elon Musk, but I will take to the skies at something less than probably 10 or 12,000 feet above mean sea level. So those are kind of my passions, Kevin. They are what they are.
Yes, yes, these are. This is really exciting. So it's also a great opportunity about learn more about you and your interests outside of work. So that's definitely great to know. So as you know, one of our important missions in the American Business Podcast is to share informative content, education content with uh, current and next generation business professionals and workforce. So this is my final question in this podcast episode. Do you have any career advice for the next generation as well as current generation? Of course, for those who like to be getting into the enterprise software industry as a career path.
Yeah, I do actually. People ask me this all the time, actually. Actually, we had a young gentleman at the house this morning, and he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I guess I do software." Yeah, it is an interesting field. It's a great field. It's a rewarding field, for sure. And I may be a little bit sort of prejudiced because of how I started. But I feel strongly that if you want to be in this industry, go out there and work for the companies that are going to use your software. Learn as much as you can. Learn what it means to be a materials manager or in supply chain. Learn what happens when you've made a mistake or you didn't have the right tools and you didn't order something, and now your company's lead time went from 4 weeks to 20 weeks and lost sales and lost revenue. Like, a lot of people don't realize that a single mistake can have catastrophic effects on a business, right? So understand cost accounting, understand materials management, understand what it takes to maintain 98 or 99% inventory record accuracy, right? Understand what it's like to be in customer service and deal with customers and get pricing and be responsive. And I think the more you understand about business itself, if you can understand business, truly understand business, and then bring that into the ERP marketplace, there's no end to your career. There's absolutely no ceiling for you in this industry, right? It is much harder for people that join the industry. You can learn software and you can learn how to configure, but it's much harder for you to be part of the conversation, the development conversation, the growth conversation, if you don't have experience to draw from. So before you run off and become an ERP professional, start in a company that is going to give you that knowledge. And I think it's okay for young people to say, hey, I want to be an ERP software professional, but I'd like to come work for you, Ace Manufacturing Software. And I would like to learn cost accounting and supply chain and quality and all of these things. And it would be great if manufacturers put together a program for young people to go through this and develop that skill set, and then they can take that into the next phase of their career. So I think that would be my advice for people looking to get into the ERP marketplace.
Yeah, truly appreciate it. Yes, actually, in previous episodes, we also talk about internships and apprenticeship programs and getting into businesses as an intern and get to know the business, the industry, as well as their challenges and pain points and weakness and experience, I mean, firsthand and learn about it. So, internships, what do you think about internship programs in general?
Yeah, I think they're great. I mean, I think internships benefit both the company and they benefit the individual, right? I mean, especially young professionals, right? I think they have a lot to learn. I mean, they have a lot to learn about business. And as I said, I was very honest myself about when I was a young pup, I didn't have all the skills that I have today, right? So internships allow young people to have those first role models, right? Unfortunately, you need to get into a good company where there's good role models, because I've also seen professionals that have gotten into companies where there's bad role models, and bad role models perpetuate themselves into more bad role models, right? So
True.
be make sure you feel really good about your role models, because bad ones can do a lot of damage to your career.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, Chuck, before we end our session, if our audience, if they like to contact you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
So certainly you can reach us on our website at copiousERP.com. But my email address is cwise, W-I-S-E, at copiousERP.com. And I'm happy to chat with anybody if there's any follow-on questions or comments. But thank you, Kevin. I mean, this was
Of
a
course.
this was a great conversation.
Well, that's actually my pleasure. I've been actually, planning for this episode for a while. So finally, we set the times together, and we made it happen. I'd like to thank you for being with us in your busy schedule, and thank you for sharing your insights. Hopefully, we can also have part two together in coming months. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of your podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And we passed more than 26,000 um, subscriber number actually earlier this week. So we are growing
Congratulations.
fast. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So we are very motivated. Our audience, our subscribers, they are supporting us. We also have sponsors supporting our YouTube channel as well as other channels for our podcast. So looks like we are on the right track, and we'll keep streaming every Friday for the American Business Podcast with informative and educational content. Also, I'd like to congratulate you with the award from America. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, well deserved. I know you, I know your company, your team. So I'm not surprised, and I'm very happy that you got that award. It's well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to us.
Of course. Chuck, thank you so much. I wish you a great Memorial Day weekend.
You too, Kevin.
Thank you
Stay
very much.
dry.
Yes, I'll try. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
All right. All
Bye
right.
now.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, thank you very much for being with us this Friday. This was a great conversation with Chuck Weiss from Copious ERP. So we had a chance to talk about different subjects about the state of US manufacturing as well as ERP business software marketplace. So that was great, very educational. And more is on our pipeline, more is coming. As I mentioned earlier, right now we have more than 26,000 YouTube subscribers on YouTube. If you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, like, and be part of our business community. This is a growing business community. Some of you watched today, earlier this morning, we started the Connection America exclusive business networking event. So limited number of professionals join the American Business Podcast. They introduce their businesses. They tell us about the updates. Also, they share their insights. So the Connection America just started. So if you are a business owner, business professional who like to be a part of these business networking event, you can also send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. So you can join us. Do you have an idea? Would you like us to cover a subject in the American Business podcast episodes? You can send us an email. If you like to be a guest, if you know someone who like to be a guest in our podcast episodes, you can send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. Also, for what is coming in our business podcast, the schedule for the podcast episodes, you can see it on our website. Official website is americanpodcast.tv. You can visit, you can learn more about our business podcast and podcast episodes. Also, you can see the schedule. We update it every week. What is coming, who's going to be our guest. So you can see the program as well. And we always appreciate our sponsors. They are listed on our YouTube channel. Also, we have a new sponsor, IP Vanish VPN. So they join us as one of our sponsors. We are honored. If you visit their link, the affiliate link, and follow their site and learn about their company, that'd be great. IP Vanish also, I use it myself, and that's really robust VPN system that you can trust and use comfortably. That's why I'm very confident to share and promote the IP Vanish on our business podcast as well. Well, I like to thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. Looking forward to having you in our coming American Business Podcast episodes. Thank you very much and have a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.